Well, it's about damn time. What's up, guys? Mark back here with yet another video, and on today's program, we're going to be talking about the just announced at CES 2016 Panasonic GH5. Now, this camera has been in the rumor mill for literally years, and people have been waiting for this thing for a very, very long time. The rumor mill has been spinning for probably longer than any other camera that I can personally remember. But now that the camera has been announced and all the specs have been released, we're going to dive down, take a look, and see if this thing truly was worth the wait. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and get started. Taking a look here on DP Review, it says, that they're not expecting the camera to hit shelves until March. So for the vast majority of people that are actually interested in this particular camera, you're going to want to pre-order right now. That is the only way that you're going to get any camera in your hands when it officially launches in March. If not, I can guarantee you that the camera will, in fact, be backed up all the way until probably June, July, maybe even later. I guarantee the first run of these cameras are going to sell out extremely fast. Let's start off by talking about some of the specs. First off, it's a 20 megapixel 4/3 sensor. Now, I know a lot of people poo-poo on 4/3 and they call it, snore thirds. Yeah, because to a lot of people it's kind of boring. It just doesn't collect as much light as APS-C or full frame. But I mean, the full frame guys make fun of the APS-C guys just as much. So, it's whatever you like. But nonetheless, it's a 20 megapixel 4/3 sensor, 5-axis in-body image stabilization, which is good because they needed that to compete against the Sony. All 4K footage taken is going to be using the full width of the sensor, and even Sony is now doing this. With the APS-C size sensors, they are taking the full width. It's at 6K, then they're down-resing it in camera down to 4K, and then you have it on your card. So, but here's the thing, is that Sony still has the overheating issue. For whatever reason, they just can't seem to nail that thing down. The overheating issue is going to kill Sony if this camera ends up being everything that it's touted to be. I mean, let's talk. Who wants to deal with that problem if you don't have to? So you do get 4K at 60 frames per second at 5994p, essentially 60p. 50p shooting with 10-bit 422 output or 8-bit 420 internal recording. I mean, seriously, we need that in Sony cameras. 422 10-bit. Seriously. 1080p video at up to 180p, enabling you to slow down that footage to 7.5 times. Very, very good. 9 frames per second shooting mode. That's very respectable. I mean, it's right up there with some of the bigger boys. Advanced DFD autofocus, dual UHS-2 card slots, autofocus point joystick, love that. 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, that's fantastic. Pre-configurable rack focus mode, dude. I mean, you can see that they're really starting to target these bigger camera or video camera manufacturers. Waveform and vector scope monitors, another high-end video feature. Paid upgrade to enable Vlog-L video capture with LUT-based preview display. There are also 2 pre-announced firmware updates. Here, according to DP Review, it says it's worth noting that Panasonic already has 2 firmware updates planned for the camera. One is expected around April, which is going to bring 10-bit 422 1080p capture, and a second at some point during the summer. The summer firmware update promises some very big improvements, including DCI, UHD, 4K, 422, 10-bit recording at 400 megabits per second, and at 1080 60p 422 10-bit at 200 megabits per second, both using all intra-compression. Support for anamorphic 4K capture will also be added at that point. They are going balls to the wall against some of the biggest names in video recording right now. And I'm talking Canon with their C100, C200, C300 line. I'm talking the Ursa Mini. I'm talking about Reds. I'm talking about all of those extremely expensive cameras that, for the most part, have dominated higher end productions for such a long time. Now, granted, you are not going to get the same sensor size in this form factor. It's just almost physically impossible. But what you are getting is a much lighter package. most people that are going to be doing any sort of real shooting, they're going to light their scenes appropriately. They're going to take the necessary steps to make the scenes lit. They're going to light them the way they want them to be lit. Most people doing real productions don't leave anything to chance. They're not just going to go, oh, well, I'm a natural shooter and I'm only going to film my film when the lighting is exactly the way I want it to be. Well, it's just not going to happen. So looking at the camera here, I mean, it looks like a basic DSLR. Nothing really to write home about in this instance. This right here is a nice little surprise. It's got a dual card slot, something that Sony has failed to implement. I don't know why. I don't know what their resistance is. Maybe they just don't see as much of a chance to fail in SD technology these days, but Panasonic is at least listening to their users in this regard. And it doesn't look like it's going to be a hassle to get these cards out of the slots. As you can see, they're slightly canted, slightly off center from each other, so that if you pop one out, you've got enough room to get your finger there at the top of number 1, and you've got enough space at the bottom of number 2 to actually pull these things out. So kudos to Panasonic for actually listening. I mean, I think that that's it says a lot about, customer satisfaction, something that a lot of these companies just don't do much of anymore. So kudos to Panasonic. So if we take a look here at the top of the camera, I'm honestly quite impressed with this layout. It's simple, but there is a lot of functionality built in to just the top of the camera. So it almost sort of looks like it's a contoured shutter release button, which I really like. It's almost like you could rest your finger in that groove and be perfectly comfortable. There's no hard edges in that area. Everything has been kind of rounded off, and it looks nice. I mean, and the button seems like it's prominent enough, but not so prominent that if you were to actually, be fumbling around with some of the other stuff, you wouldn't accidentally take a shot when you weren't meaning to. The scroll wheel on the top is in a fantastic location. Some of the Nikons, you had to kind of reach around the front and scroll it left to right with your hand in a vertical position. It does seem to me, again, only my opinion, that the scroll wheel on top like that from left to right seems like it would be a much easier solution. And you don't have to reach your finger as far away from the shutter button in order to get access to that functionality. If we look here, just below the scroll wheel, we have white balance, ISO, and exposure compensation. Dude, all that stuff right there. And it even has the 2 little nodules on the ISO button to basically let you know where your finger is roughly at. All you have to do is feel for those things, and you're going to know exactly where you're at on your camera. I mean, that is an ingenious idea. It's simple. It doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal, but it is such a big deal when you are trying to learn your camera and trying to associate all the different places that your finger could be at on the body, and just to be able to do that tactile without ever having to take your eye away from the viewfinder. I mean, it's ingenious. It really is. It's simple but effective. We also have a function 1 button. I'm assuming that you will be able to program that to just about anything, and of course a dedicated, in a good place, record button. I mean, who would have thought? So you do have a lot of access to most things that most people are going to want to use in a shooting situation. So fantastic. The mode dial looks pretty regular, but it is in a nice convenient spot. And also they've got your shooting mode dial over here on the left, where you can do single, multiple, 6K shooting, bracketed, and time release. So very well laid out, in my opinion. I mean, it's not very complicated. It's not super duper flashy. This is ultra utilitarian, but ultimately a super duper nice layout. All right, so here on the left side of the camera, first of all, that's a full-size HDMI port. Okay, you just don't find that in many places anymore. You also have a USB-C style charging port or computer docking port. USB-C really is the future. I mean, it sucks balls right now to have to find all the extra cables and try and replace all your peripherals and stuff like that because of the USB-C revolution. But eventually, I would say probably within the next 6 months, everyone is going to be just fine. Everyone will be acclimated. And yes, if you're wondering what these 2 dots are right here, that is a headphone port and that is a microphone jack. That's right. You definitely have both in this camera. It's almost like they read my mind and picked up almost everything that I wanted in this new Sony camera. Even here, we see that you've got a little cable keeper for the HDMI cable, which I think is a pretty good idea. I don't know if that's going to be included in the package or not, but if they do include this, I mean, that is forward thinking. That is pre-planning on Panasonic's part, and I gotta say, dude, they're really stepping it up, and I think that they are really trying hard to directly compete with even the biggest, even though their sensor is not the biggest. Oh my God, an articulating screen, a fully articulating screen. So looking here on the back of the camera, now that we've gotten the articulating screen part out of the way, it looks like the mode dial, the menu, they've got 3 extra function buttons here on the back, function 2, function 3, and function 4. Pretty easy, simple layout, and you've even got a function 5 button up here on the left side of the viewfinder. Your play button is in a very logical place. Your delete button is in a very logical place, and you've got your back scroll wheel. You've also got an AF AE lock and a thumbstick. So I got to be honest, so far very well thought out, and I gotta say I'm really impressed. I mean, and this is just initial reactions. This is just me thinking about what I would want out of my own damn camera, and it's here. So again, this is with the screen closed. And for people that don't like articulating screens, this is the default configuration. You should just keep it in. You don't have to use the articulating screen. You can keep it just like this, and you would be perfectly, you would be blissfully unaware that it was even available. Just don't move it. Don't touch it. They're also coming out with a vertical grip for this. And again, they give you yet another thumbstick. And they also give you your scroll wheels and your AE and AF lock button on there as well. So again, they seem to be forward thinking a little bit and just knowing that this is going to be a complete package. This is where I think the Panasonic's trying to cut into some of those bigger video camera manufacturer style cameras. This thing is going to enable you and me, maybe if I decide to buy it, enable us to use professional audio equipment. And this is why I think that they're gunning for the video market a little bit more so than the stills market. I mean, there are a million cameras for stills, but for those of you that are wanting to do higher level video projects, if you've got corporate clients or you're doing weddings or you're doing any sort of thing where you're making a lot of money, having to carry around yet a separate device in order to record pro-level audio, you do require something that has XLR. The only thing that would really concern me at this point is, what do the preamps sound like? Are these super duper quiet preamps? But to have this and to have the forethought to include locks on your XLR connectors, I mean, this is getting into that $10,000 camera range. If we look here on the other side, you've got tactile scroll wheels. You don't have, as far as I can tell, you don't have any sort of meters or anything. So you would have to do live monitoring, and you would have to sort of do most of the stuff manually and use your own ears to know when something was clipping or when something was too low. This really is amazing to me. And I don't know why more camera companies have not come out with this yet. And if you notice here on the very front, you do have this screen that pulls down over top of all of your buttons and switches so that you don't accidentally bump or knock one of your settings out of order. But they did have the foresight, again, to leave it about halfway down so that should the situation call for a little bit of a gain boost or a reduction, it's just enough so that you can get your thumb right there and rotate those dials backward or forward in order to make those adjustments. Those were my thoughts on the Panasonic GH5, and I really do think that, we're looking at potentially one of the best-selling cameras of 2017. Like I said at the beginning of this video, if you don't have your order in right now, you are not going to get a camera when this thing releases. Period. End of story. So there you have it. There you go, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a big thumbs down. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good business. And also, don't forget to leave comments about what you think of the brand new Panasonic GH5 down in the comment section below. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I will see you guys again on the next one. Peace.